okay to not be okay. But what's not okay is getting so caught up in our emotions that it takes over us, and it takes over our emotions for a long period of time. When I mean a long period of time, I mean weeks, months, or even years. This can be bad for our mental health, and it can take over us and make us believe that the world is completely against us when it's not. We just haven't handled a bad situation completely right, or we've got so stuck in it that is now taken over our lives. It is really easy to get sucked into. I used to be a really negative person. I used to have a really bad outlook on life. And I do believe that just these few strategies that I've been using recently within the last year or two has actually changed my life, because unfortunately bad situations are going to happen. But I believe that if we handle them right, and if we know how to handle our emotions and our state of mind at the time, we can have more control on it, which actually can have more control on our life in general. So my first strategy is accepting how you feel when you're going through that scenario. So accepting it can give you more control on how you feel, because once you accept it, then you know what's going on in your mind and you know what's going on in your body. When we are in a negative situation, a lot of the time we overreact because we're not thinking properly, or we're just reacting to what's going on, which can sometimes cause a worse situation to happen, or we can take it out on the wrong person. I find when we accept a situation, we're more in control. Once we accept it, comes strategy number two. Strategy number two is two different options. You can choose to stay in that emotion that you're feeling at the time, knowing that you've accepted how you feel and that you will move on eventually. Or you can decide that you want to find a way to distract yourself or bring yourself out of this state. Either option you decide to do is absolutely fine. There are days when I decide I just want to stay like that. I know how I'm feeling, I've accepted it, and I'm going to move on for it when I feel ready. But right now is not the time. And there's some days when I'm like, actually, do you know what? I don't want to be in a bad mood today. I don't want this to affect me. So I will find ways to distract myself. And that's absolutely okay. My third strategy is a few different things. So we can try and be grateful for what we do have rather than what we don't have at that particular time. It also does always depend on what situation you're going through. Reminding yourself that someone is always worse off. Imagine this situation in a worse predicament than what it actually is. Last one is kind of tied in with the strategy number three. Can you find a positive from this situation? Is there a reason why this is happening? And is there going to be a positive outcome in the long run at some point from this situation? A lot of the time when we are in negative situations, we do find it really hard to find the positives. But deep down, there usually is some kind of positive there. Now, a lot of the time, this last strategy is really hard to do, and you might just want to focus on the first two or the first three. I have found that even when you choose to stay in the mood that you're feeling, these last two strategies, when you deep down think about it, you can actually find reasons and find ways naturally to bring yourself up without actually trying to change your mood. So now I talk about my Crohn's story on my channel, I will use that as my scenario. If you haven't watched it yet, I'll attach it above and you can have a look at that so you understand what I'm talking about more. I was diagnosed with Crohn's and I didn't take it well to start with at all. But what I did do was accept how I felt at that time of receiving the news. So I knew I wasn't happy. I knew I was going to feel a bit depressed over this and that it was going to probably get to me. But I knew I had to feel this to be able to accept it and move on from it. So I accepted how I felt at that time and I allowed myself to feel that way. I did decide that I wouldn't allow myself to feel that way for more than 2 days. Once I did research on it, I actually found some gratitude and some positivity. I felt grateful the fact that I wasn't in a worse situation than what I was at that time. From the research that I did, I found a lot of people in a way worse situation than what I am. So my scenario with the Crohn's could have been so much worse. So I had to be grateful for what I was experiencing at that time. Even though it's not nice, it's absolutely horrible and I wouldn't wish it on anybody, there's worse. Like I mentioned before, there's always someone in a worse off situation than what you are. And even scrap the Crohn's, it could have been a completely different situation. I could have I could have been losing my life. It could have been a lot worse than that anyway. So I found the positivity and I found gratitude from that, which naturally did lift up my spirits a bit more. Now, I know 2 years ago, if I was diagnosed with this, I would not have been able to handle this. I would have locked myself in my house. I would have been depressed. I would have not seen the point in life anymore. But there is a point in life, because we just need to accept what's happening to us and we need to find ways to deal with it. But these strategies that I have found help me deal with my mental health, which help me deal with life. And this has massively changed my life. As I mentioned, if I hadn't have been able to do these strategies, I wouldn't be where I am today. But instead, I'm fighting for life, and I'm fighting for positivity, and I'm fighting to enjoy life, because life is worth living. There's 2 quotes I want to talk to you about today. They really are the quotes that I go by nearly every single day. My first one is, everything happens for a reason. A lot of the time when things are happening, we don't know the reason. But when we look back a few years before, we're like, oh, look, everything really does happen for a reason. And my second quote that I live by every single time something actually happens is, there is no point stressing over something you cannot control. If you've done everything you possibly can, what's the point in allowing stress to take over you if you can't physically do anything anymore? So do your input, do what you can, and find a way to block it off. Find barriers to allow yourself to shield and protect yourself, because there is literally no point putting in energy in something where you're not going to get anything back. My point in this video today was just to see if my strategies can help anyone else the way they've helped me, and if it can at least help one person or slightly start to change somebody else's life, because it does take practice, but it really is worth it. So I'm Faye. Thank you for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe. I talk about mental health, positivity, and my Crohn's story on here. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye.